AmandaLand, AmandaLand, AmandaLand.
Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing out there? Happy Views from AmandaLand. Happy Views from AmandaLand. Welcome. We are here, waking up on the right side of history. The internets are mad at me again, as they always are. We're here for your views, news, and views from. Why do I always get it wrong? And it's my own motto. News and truths by any joke necessary. Large up. Trinidad is greeting us this morning. Trini to the bone. Trini to the bone. You know what? Can I just say something before we get started? I'm not normal. And I'm always being viewed and responded to through a lens of normalcy. And that is the biggest problem, is that normal at this point is typically circuitous. It's dishonest. It is that's like become a normal part of society. And I am not those things. It's polite, but it's not direct. And I speak in a certain tone of voice that some people find very offensive by literally just the way I speak. So I feel like a lot of people who have issues with me, they want me to speak different because that will be easier for them. But honestly, it's going to be easier for you to listen different than for me to speak different. I'm not going to speak different. This is how I talk. And it's just really like, I don't know why there's such a dedication to misunderstanding. I don't get that. I do get that I speak a certain way that people find offensive. I do get that. But I also can tell you that that's not going to change. I speak how I speak. It's never going to change. And there's really not much else to say about it. So, for those of y'all out there who continue to be mad and, feel some type of way about me, it's a lot of that could be, that's wasted energy. And a lot of that could be curtailed by simply just listening to what I'm saying versus critiquing the tone in which it's being said as a personal attack on you when I don't know you. And that's really like the basics. I don't know you. So it's not a personal attack on you. People feel like the way I talk is always sarcastic. I do have a sarcastic tone. At a certain point, it's just like, okay, you just doing it just to do it. Because at a certain point, it's like, what this lady got to do? What this lady got to do to make you stop believing that she's an op? Because I don't know why people believe I'm an op. I genuinely be like, do you know what an op is? Do you know what an op is? So yesterday I posed the question on my I posed a question on my YouTube where I asked people I said Black people, because people keep saying I'm sitting this one out, I'm sitting this one out, I'm sitting this one out. And I'm over here like getting bothered by that. But then I realized that I'm being bothered based on my interpretation of what that means versus, really understanding from people's mouths what that means, because they don't expound upon that. They'll just say, I'm sitting this one out. So I said, well, let me ask the question. What is, for Black people who are saying I'm sitting this one out? Sorry, I was eating egg because I'm trying to get my vitamin C. Actually, let me just, hold on. Let me take this. So for Black people who say I'm sitting this one out, I asked, what does that mean? Why? So why, what does sitting this one out mean versus standing in? Like, what would standing in look like? And then the third question was, and what are you doing now? Or what are you not doing now that you were doing before, now that we are in the midst of a fascist takeover of this country? So that was my question. And when I tell you, people are like, this is such a hypocritical question. And I don't know. I don't understand why that's a hypocritical question. I don't understand that. I don't understand why that's a hypocritical question. I don't understand why I am not allowed to ask that. Well, okay, for some people, I'm not allowed to ask questions about Black people because I'm light skinned. So that we can just call that right what it is. To some people, I shouldn't be asking Black people shit because I'm light skinned and I'm like not really Black in their eyes. So there's that, right? And then in general, there's also a sense of, and no, Kennedy, I don't care how my tone might be taken out of context, because there's always a question about tone. And I literally said, this is a genuine question. So the frustrating part is that even when I'm verbalizing what it is, this is a genuine question. It doesn't matter, because the real truth is that folks don't want to be questioned. They don't want to have to answer, or they don't want to feel like they have to answer. And the beauty of it is that you don't. That's the beauty. The beauty is that you actually don't have to say nothing. You really don't have to say anything. But then there's also the truth that if you do answer the question. And when I tell you, I got some really good answers. And so I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show during my PSA. I got some really great responses that gave me a lot of insight. And, when people say to me like, oh, you was saying the wrong things during election, I don't listen to stuff like that, because those are the same people that were saying that about about Cornel West and Tavis Smiley talking about Obama. And back then, I was those same people being like, how dare they? I can't believe they're doing this. I was those same people. And now I know better. And so now that I know better, I do better. And I continue the work of those who are consistently challenging this country to show us what democracy is supposed to actually mean. And that has now taken on a different approach, because I don't believe this country will ever show us that. And so I believe that there is a whole other energy that has to be put out. And I will talk about all of this in the PSA. I'm really excited. Let me just make this very clear. If you're in the chat and you're squabbling, I will remove you from the chat. Okay? I will remove you from the chat. Kennedy, she said that to you because I didn't ask for your opinion. That's why she told you to sit down. Because I didn't ask for your opinion, and I don't know why you think your opinion is valid. This is the thing. Everybody seems to think that their opinion is valid. If no one is asking for your opinion or your advice about their behavior, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. No, I'm not curious about random person on the internet's opinion about why my tone might be taken the way it is. I'm 43 years old. You think I don't know why my tone is taken the way it is? You think you're going to put me on to something I didn't know? You know? And at the end of the day, intention is stated. If I state my intention and you still want to misinterpret what it is, that's a reflection of your intention. If I state that my intention is, I want to understand this, can you please tell me XYZ? Then there's that. There's that. That's that. And yes, you asked, could I give it to you? And that alone is no. I don't know why you would think that I would even be interested. I'm not interested in y'all's opinions on my tone. That's how I started this conversation. Like, if I state in the beginning of a video, this is a genuine question. I'm asking genuine questions. And then you choose to call it disingenuous, F you. F you. Because what are we doing? I don't think that that's valid. I think that that is someone just really trying to be on some difficult BS. You just want to be mad. That don't make no sense. The tone policing with black women, like you said, Tiffany, who said that? Someone said tone policing with black women. Yeah, Tiffany. So we really only tone police black women. And by the way, black women tone police each other. OD. Okay? Black women be tone policing each other, and then we determine which black women get to talk which way, which black women don't get to talk a certain way. We do this all the time. You feel me? It's pointless. I was asking that question for a legit reason. And I look forward to talking about my results and my findings during my PSA. Now, I am working on a little roll call song. It's not fully formed yet, but I'm working on a little roll call song. I'm wiping my nose like I did Calvin, and I did not, but my nose is itching. Okay, so tell me, y'all. Tell me, where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? This is gonna be it. I don't know what it is yet, though. AmandaLand is where you from? You came in here to learn. I gotta get it. I have to figure it out. I have to figure it out. But it's coming. It's coming. It's coming, y'all. AmandaLand is here to learn. Get in the chat. Tell me where you from. AmandaLand is here to learn. Get in the chat and tell me where you from. We got Minnesota. Okay. AmandaLand is where you from? Get in the chat and tell me. Okay, wait, no, it is. AmandaLand is here to learn. Get in the chat and tell me where you're from. We got San Diego, Hanover, New Hampshire, Detroit. We got, my ding sound effect is taking too long to reload. All right, AmandaLand is where you from? No, that's not it. Here it is. AmandaLand is here to learn. Get in the chat and tell me where you from. We got Jacksonville, London, Raleigh, DC, Lago Vista, Texas, Lancaster, Texas, Boston. We got morning LA commute, Kansas City. Someone said don't trust people from Southeast San Diego. Bankhead. What else? We got Yay Area, Minnesota, Orlando, Los Angeles, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. We got Baltimore, Maryland, Compton, Euless, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Houston, Atlanta. Amanda, are you in LA? No. No, Mo. Why? Because I sold my house. I said I sold my house. Hey. I said I got out of there, out of LA. No more play. I was living down the street from a Zionist who was putting stuff up on the internet. And I got out of there. Yay! Yeah. I got out of there. That's fun. So we're going to do that in the mornings. Y'all, I have to deal with my nose. Hold on one second. I have to deal with my nose. Something is, I feel like there's a booger and it's driving me crazy. Yes. Amanda Landers, we are here in the building. Okay, I'm back. And I was right, there was a booger. Okay. So, Amanda Landers here to learn. Get on the mic. Wait, Amanda Landers here, you learn. Come on, come in the comments, tell me where you from. Drop in the comments, tell me where you from. Drop in. Amanda Landers, Amanda Landers here to learn. Drop in and tell me where you from. Yay! Also, I managed to rhyme learn and from. Yeah. Shout out. All right. So, big ups to everybody here. If you're just joining us, this is Views from AmandaLand, your news and truths by any joke necessary. Thank you for waking up on the right side of history. All my Cali folks are up early on the way to work. We have a great show today. We have a next guest for our Black Around the World segment. The homie Martin is going to tell us about being an expat in Mexico, being a Black American living in Mexico. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to name the fascists in our government, some of the fascists in our government. So we have a really fun segment to get through that, because I feel like you got to know who you're up against. You know, you got to know who you're up against. And we're also going to name the 5 things that we did last week. We also got to tell how Black we feel today. But first, as you know, let's get into our word of the day. Our word of the day. Okay, it takes a little bit to load, unfortunately. So sorry about that. But the word of the day is niddick. Yeah, the word, no, it's knitted. Knitted. The word of the day is knitted. N-I-T-I-D, which of course sounds like K-N-I-T-T-E-D, but that's not what it is. It's N-I-T-I-D. It's an adjective that means bright or lustrous. Bright or lustrous. Bright or lustrous. Knitted. N-I-T-I-D. N-I-T-I-D. Bright or lustrous. It is the opposite of a knitted day over at MSNBC, considering all the firings and the voices that they fired. Aside from Joy Reid, I was most impacted by the firing of Amon, because he is the only person on mainstream television that was speaking honestly and has continued to speak honestly about literally everything. Okay? About literally everything, from Palestine to Democrats, all the above. So Amon Moheldin, he lost his show at MSNBC, but he's just a really great journalist, and I really appreciate the work that he was doing, and that he has been committed to doing in the face of so much kowtowing, right? Because the truth of the matter is that everybody else was either ignoring or kowtowing to Israel over the past 500-something days. And he was like, nah, not I. I am Egyptian, and I'm going to talk about it the way it needs to get talked about. So I really appreciate Amon and the work that he was doing. And, I think it's really important that he be lifted up as somebody who decided, I'm not going to be a follower. I'm going to stand on my principles. And he has continued to do so. All right. First up, we're going to shout out Kennedy because, listen, Kennedy a real one. Kennedy took the chastising on the chest and said, I'm still here and I'm going to participate. So shout out to Kennedy. Despite disagreements, the engagement here is very knitted. We appreciate you, Kennedy. All right, next up, who else we got? Okay, I started some of them. Angela says, the jojoba oil has my hair looking knitted. Okay, Angela, we love it. All right, Shandles says, I love to wear knitted clothing on a sunny day. Yay! Danielle Beck says, your knitted smile during the improv roll call song shows how much you enjoy the creative work you do. Facts, facts, facts. Reagan Crothers says, I feel you, sis. I feel you. I try to have a knitted outlook on life during this crappy administration. Upside down, smiley face. And let's get one more. Cynthia said, this freshly clean shirt turned out looking knitted. Yay. So shout out to everybody. Use the word knitted in a sentence, N-I-T-I-D. It's an adjective, bright or lustrous. All right. Well, we have a bright or lustrous day ahead of us because we are going to get into our our second guest for for Black Around the World. So I'm looking forward to that. And before we get into that, though, let's play this video because this lady is a ridiculous person and I just need y'all to see this.
Now, how do you resurrect your party, though? By protecting red tape and the bureaucracy, by trying to gin up sympathy for federal workers who need to get real jobs in the real world like most of America. Ever heard of it? Now, do Democrats really think that Americans will stop liking Trump because he fires these people?
Did she just say that working for the government is not a real job? I just want to hear it one more time from the lady that sits and reads a prompter talking about people having real jobs. Can I play it one more time? I just want to hear it one more time.
Now, how do you resurrect your party, though? By protecting red tape and the bureaucracy, by trying to gin up sympathy for federal workers who need to get real jobs in the real world like most of America. Ever heard of it? Now, do Democrats really think that Americans will stop liking Trump because he fires these people?
Ma'am, why? This is... That don't make no sense. That literally don't make sense. People need to go out and get a real job. What is a real job? If it's not working at the government, why? Anywho, speaking of real jobs, so this guy, Elon Musk, sent out this email, right? Where he was telling people, y'all need to hit us up and tell us about 5 things that you did this week. You need to tell us 5 things that you did this week. And so I want y'all to drop in the comments things that you did this week and that can be sent to them. All right. So y'all take a moment today. Take a moment today to send these people your 5 things. And we're going to come up with some 5 things right now. I would also like you to take a moment to comment on yesterday's video to help it move through the algorithm. We all know that that's a very imperative thing. We didn't do church announcement this morning, but that's a very imperative thing. Commenting on the videos, replaying the videos, etc. You know, these videos, they got to get at least 10,000 for the YouTube to care about it. All right. Now, I'm doing this because I don't see my guest on camera. So, well, you wasn't on camera. So I was like, I don't know. You know, when people got kids, you don't know what could have happened. You don't know what could have happened. But before we get to our guest today on Black Around the World, y'all, what are 5 things? What is something you did last week that we could send to hr@opm.gov? All right. Lay said, took large amounts of ketamine and wore oversized sunglasses indoors. India said, gave an employee a raise. We really love that. All right. What else we got going on here? We got, Angela said, I maintain my peace. Sonia said, buck the system, boycotted everything, share knowledge. Kismet, restrained, seal it, calling my people on my sisters. Dang. He better be happy you restrained. Bullet the Bunny said, found God hiding under the Resolute desk. Okay. Jonathan Gonzalez says, redacted. So we don't know what Jonathan Gonzalez been doing last week. Okay. Sandra said, so working for the government isn't a real job. That tracks. Bullet the Bunny also added, measured tiny pants, Vance's pants. You know I love calling him Jance Dance Vance. Someone said the JD stands for Jance Dance, and I have never gotten over that. Jance Dance Vance is hilarious to me. Reagan, we gonna end with Reagan. Reagan said, you know what they did this week? Stayed black. They had to get a new email because of the spam. So if you are sitting around trying to procrastinate today, there you go. There's something you can do. Put together your 5 things that you did this week and send it on over to hr4@opm.gov. Okay? Send it over to hr4@opm.gov and annoy them. They should never feel comfort. They should always feel uncomfortable. I am ready to get into our Black Around the World segment. So excited!
AmandaLand.
Black around the world, black around the world. Black around the world, black around the world, black around the world. So we international. Passport. Hey. Passport. Y'all, let's bring to the stage Martin Ali Sims to join us for Black Around the World, our segment where we talk about Black folks, Black American folks specifically, living in other places around the world or who have lived for extended times in other places around the world. Martin, how you doing? Martin?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm chilling. How's the fam?
They great. You know, I took the kid to school though. We wasn't gonna be able to do this with him here.
He be on the mic.
What? He don't have no etiquette whatsoever. Somebody just got to have him in order for me to do these types of things for real.
They just have to possess him.
Mhm.
Like, really?
He's a daddy's boy, so he want to be wherever I'm at. So when I have to do these types of things, he just don't care about the audience. He wants me. So that's
he's at the NBA press conference.
Yes.
So he's
Steph Curry's daughter at the press conference. Absolutely, that's him.
I love that we both knew exactly who I was referring to.
Mhm.
Riley. Yes, I'm referring to Riley. Okay, Martin. So this segment, Black Around the World, is all about expanding our understanding of what it is to live in other places, also geography. Because I feel like, y'all, why am I sweating so much today? Am I going through menopause today? Like just today? Because I am sweating like I am really... Sorry, my glasses are slipping off my face, Martin. I'm like struggling. Okay. People will say Mexico.
Mhm.
But they not realizing Mexico is a whole country
With 33 states.
with states.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I lived in the state of Quintana Roo. Quintana Roo.
Quintana Roo.
Sí.
And that is in the Yucatan Peninsula, correct?
Sí.
Okay.
Sí.
So, y'all, I'm going to show you this on a map so that you can understand what we're talking about. Because this is the thing. When people think Mexico, they may just be thinking of Mexico City. They may be thinking of like Tijuana, Sinaloa, you know, all I'm naming places in Narcos. But if we're being Juarez. So you lived over here, correct? Where this in Tulum?
No, I lived in Playa del Carmen.
You lived in Playa del Carmen, okay. And if we are even closer, let me actually remove this media asset so that we can really see the whole jazz of it all. So the Yucatan Peninsula, as we see at the top right, is Playa del Carmen, which is next to a place that a lot of people have heard of, Cancun.
Yeah.
Did it make a difference living close to a tourism place? Like, do you feel like that affected like the living conditions of where you were?
Absolutely. Because of language barriers, the further you get outside of tourist areas, the less English they speak. So it would be a lot harder, or you would have to learn their language. Now, my son, he's 4, he's fully bilingual. He knows both languages. Like, yeah, I can't even talk in Spanish with him. He's like the translator.
Oh my
However,
God, we love it.
no, I'll show you a video. I'll send it to you. But he's like awesome with Spanish. And then when we move back to the States, he don't want to speak it with people who don't speak it. So, and I can't make him speak Spanish. Like, show him you can speak Spanish. And he like, no.
No.
Mhm.
So talk us through it. What made you decide I'm going to exit the States and we're going to go to Mexico? And what was the process in determining where you ended up going?
Well, we had been there the year before for my wife's birthday. So we went down there. We were just tourists on the resort, so to speak. And then, so that was 2019. The following year, we had Genesis, my son, but we had Genesis 2 weeks into lockdowns. So
Lockdown
we
for the
were
pandemic, for the panini.
pandemic
Yep.
lockdowns. And so what I was doing prior to the pandemic, I could no longer do, which was basically personal training and coaching basketball. I did coach a little bit of basketball after the pandemic started in
Because you all were in
Houston.
and Texas acted like there was no pandemic.
Exactly. However, we lived in an apartment that was very like inward, and I could tell immediately with my son. When I say inward, I mean like we're on the 3rd floor, and all of the doors are inside. So like we had to go through a lot of indoors to get outdoors, and
Interesting.
so it just wasn't. And my son loved to be outside, so we was always on the balcony. And then we went to visit Mexico for a couple of weeks after I did an AAU season. So I coached AAU. I had a huge AAU season. I don't know why I did it, but I did. And I had a newborn. I had just recently had ACL surgery, and I
So
decided.
taking it easy.
Yeah, no. I had the surgery on Friday, and we started our practices on that Monday. However, during the pandemic, the lockdowns were very devastating to the kids that I was already coaching. So I was like, I can get them a couple practices, a couple of games. And that's when I first started doing the neuroscience stuff too with them. So at the end of that season, Phoenix was like, oh man, no, she needed a break. She been with the baby. I've been at practice. I've been at games. We've been traveling. She like, we going to Mexico. We going to chill. So we get to Mexico, and
you went back to where you'd went before because you already knew it was good.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we found the pandemic also had a lot of deals. So where we went was astronomically cheap, right? Like it was like we were on a resort that was so beautiful that I was like, man, I think I could live here. And I think she was already thinking it, period. She had already lived outside the country. She lived in Asia, Indonesia. She's already lived outside the country. So when I was like, okay, well, we'll try it. And I think by the grace of God, the apartment complex who I was also training for, they no longer had they had a big budget and they couldn't do it for like events because everything was locked down. So they was like, can you do us some virtual fitness things? And they gave us a check that covered the whole vacation. So we went on vacation and we left with a lease. And at the same resort that we were already staying at. And I wouldn't have, it was only like a 4-month lease. We were like, we're gonna try to see how it go. We ended up out there for 3 years. Like we was and literally pretty much the only reason we came back is just because the things that I was doing with the neuroscience stuff like started
Okay,
taking
wait,
off
pause.
on my bed.
What is the neuroscience stuff? Because the
The-
people in the comments are like, skirt, skirt. What is the neuroscience stuff? Because you definitely just said that and kept it moving.
So in 2019, I started going to therapy when she was pregnant with the baby because I tore my ACL the same weekend I found out she was pregnant with the baby. So I'm like, it's a lot going on here mentally, physically, and we're preparing for a baby. So we started in therapy, and my therapist was trying to tell me about disassociation. And I had no idea what disassociation was. I considered it nonchalant, right? Like, this is just me not caring about what's going on. And so she like trying to break down disassociation to me, and I'm not really liking what she's saying. So
Wait, why aren't you liking what she's saying?
because it's about me. Like, I'm dissociative. I'm the one with the disassociation.
Oh,
problem.
you didn't like what she was saying because it was accurate.
Well, nah, because it's if you in a therapy session, sometimes it's like you getting jumped. You feel me? Like in a couples therapy, it's like both of them against me. Like, so it was that.
Was it accurate? Martin, was it accurate?
Absolutely, but it was. So yes, it was absolutely accurate. I did not know what disassociation was, and so when I found out this is an actual response, trauma response, stress response, and it causes you to basically leave the moment mentally or go within yourself, within the safety of yourself. It's pretty primal reaction because when you can't run, or like when they say fight or flight, if you cannot run or flee or fight, the next thing is to just, you have impending danger, and your body goes into a shutdown phase where like your heart rate starts dropping, you start checking out. And it's because if something is immediate and it's gonna happen, you don't want to bleed out. So your heart rate drops and it just prepares for danger. And of course, like disassociation evolved to more social things. So we can disassociate when we feel like we're in a relationship or some type of power differential. We could disassociate with a boss. We could disassociate with a spouse. We could disassociate.
When I was on a reel, I used to do that.
It's automatic. And this is the issue I was
literally
saying with,
it was just like
So I checked out. I was in this automatic. That was the issue that I was having. I was like, why am I in trouble for doing something that automatically happens? That's what I feel like. That's what my issue was.
Was the question, was Phoenix like, you keep checking out and you're like, but I'm here?
There were moments where she needed me to be present and I would check out. Like there was, and that was the issue. She's like, I really need you here. And I'm like, that's too much. And I'm not saying that consciously, right? Without this therapy session, I don't know. You know what I mean? And so my therapist couldn't explain it to me as well as, and so she started telling me about this book, Dr. Bruce Perry. He wrote a book with Oprah, What Happened to You? But she wasn't telling me about that book. She was telling me about his previous book, The Boy That Was Raised as a Dog. And when I started to understand I know, right? So
that's a hell of a title. Woo, child.
I got a whole story for how I found out about that title. It was terrible. But anyway, no, seriously, because, okay, I go into it. I know we're talking about Black around the world, but at this point, so I come from training a client, and my therapist and Phoenix are on the phone together without me, right? Like they was not supposed to have that conversation. And so I get in the house and they're like, oh, we was just talking about you. Okay, that don't make me feel better either. Like, what are y'all saying? And she was like, no, Tara's reading this book, and the book is about disassociation, and this doctor really understands it, and he can explain it to you. I said, okay, well, what's the name of the book? And they like, The Boy That Was Raised as a Dog. I'm like, what's she trying to say? Is she calling my mama up? Like, what is so
wait. Give me the ethnicity of the doctor.
He's white. He's absolutely white. Yeah. So
no, the one the therapist that y'all are going to.
Yeah, she's white too. And
do you feel like that added to it?
Absolutely. It's the only thing that makes this all the way better. these are two of the best white people I have ever met in my life. Like, I mean, they have an understanding of whiteness,
Yeah.
and they really understand how that affects blackness, and they talk about it from a scientific perspective. They understand what causes trauma, because this whole thing is about trauma. And so Dr. Perry,
Yeah.
he worked with like the kids who got shot up in Columbine, or the kids who survived the Waco bombings. He's
Yeah.
worked with the most traumatized kids. Right now he's doing work in Turkey and the Palestinians and all of those things. So he works at deep levels of trauma. And so I started watching a YouTube video literally before they got off the phone on him, and I was like, nah, he really get it. Like, he at least understands this part.
I want to
right?
give you props real quick, because what you could have done in that moment is disassociated, and what you could have done in that moment is been like, man, F y'all,
I
and
wanted
walked
to.
right back out the house.
I
And
wanted to.
instead, you went against your instinct
Mhm,
and you actually leaned in.
mhm.
And you said, let me, which is what I keep trying to tell folks to do in general. Like, if your instinct is to run, do the opposite to actually at least prove to yourself if you're bugging or not. And look at what you ended up doing. You ended up awakening.
I do it. This is what I do now. Like, I literally go everywhere talking to people about their brain, how disassociation can affect. It's deeper than the disassociation, because that's not the only response. People have arousal responses. They do have dissociative responses, and oftentimes they don't know where their responses are coming from. And when you get down to the depths of trauma, it's not just your trauma, it's transgenerational trauma. So you may have some responses that resemble your parents or your grandparents, or things
Right.
that they have gone through that
Right.
might not show up in your life. You're like, where would this come from? My
Yeah.
son actually has a bit of a temper that he's never seen me exhibit. Like, I don't have that temper no more, right? But he's still,
But
I'm
it's
like,
in
look, I
him.
see him, like, right? Like, I'm like, oh, so, but this is the cool thing, because I got tools now that I didn't have at the time, that I can help him move through those dysregulated moments. And dysregulation is part of our vocabulary. Regulation and dysregulation being at a
Child.
homeostasis, where you can actually have a conversation where you have your prefrontal cortex engaged in the conversation, because a lot of people shut down, or they're responding out of more traumatic responses or stress
Yes.
responses than they
Yes.
are in an actual intellectual way. So Dr. Perry talks about it from this perspective. He said, you want to have a conversation cortex to cortex. You know what I mean? And if you,
Cortex to cortex. I
because
love how
you,
we're still talking about Mexico for the record, y'all, because all of this is context to context.
absolutely,
Carry
absolutely.
on.
So, I mean, because Mexico helped us regulate ourselves. It gave us a minute to not be in the battleground of America. And to be honest with you, when we actually moved out there, it was the day before the first election of Biden and Trump. So we got out. Like, we was in Mexico the day that election happened, when Biden won. And I just didn't want to be a part of the
Melee, the
back and
hoopla.
forth. It's
Yeah.
always, it's always this back and forth. And I'm really, I'm tired of that conversation, because it becomes a every 4-year finger pointing versus a collaborative.
Have you been paying attention to what I've been saying? Because you just echoing what I've been. Well, Martin, we always on the same page, so.
You know how it go. So, long story short, to make a long story short, I got into that. I'll say my shirt is develop, organize, process, engage. So that's dope. That's an acronym for dope. That's my company. We have to bring the language of neuroscience down to a language that we can digest, because right now it's in the clouds. Shout out to your background. So So right now that conversation is in the clouds, and it doesn't reach us to an intellectual perspective. And I'm not talking about dumbing things down. I'm talking about meeting people where they are.
Yep.
And so that's what it is. And so I share these information and these tools and things in a context of being able to teach through acronyms and things that people can understand.
Yep.
And once
Digestible.
it has to be, because outside of that, we will be missing out on information that they're finding out now. There's a lot of research at this point where we find that regulation and continuous regulation helps what's called neuroplasticity. We can change our lives and we can change the lives of our offspring if we are able to do enough work on our own nervous systems.
Well, someone asked earlier, what does regulation mean? As somebody who was not regulated and is now regulated, I feel like I know the answer, but you are the guest, so take it away.
Regulation is just being at a homeostasis, and homeostasis is this even keel, so to speak. Like you're not
Extremes.
Yeah, there are extremes. So they call it a window of tolerance. Your window of tolerance is like this. Like this is everything in between my hands is what you can tolerate. If it's above this, then it's arousal response. If it's below this, it ends up being a fight, flight, or a flight or freeze response. So if you go below the window of tolerance, you end up disassociating. You go above it, it could be a verbal lashing out. It could be literally physically doing something. And so a lot of time, what we call it crashing out though. At the end of the day, you've gotten outside of your window of tolerance, and your response to that is something that doesn't fit the actual space. Right. And then that's crashing out. That's ultimately what happens. And so if people were able to open up their window of tolerance through regulation, through constant regulation, then they'll have a better resilient nervous system to be able to deal with some of the stressors that are a part of life. And what happens is when we have too many stressors over and over again without being able to get back to a baseline, which is where regulation is, it's a baseline. And so if you can't get back to the baseline, that becomes chronic stress. And then we start having these ailments like cancer, like diabetes, like heart disease, and all the things that the top 5 things that kill us literally are byproducts of us not being in a window of tolerance. You know what I mean? So, or not being able to maintain this window of tolerance because we got constant stresses, whether it's poverty or whether we're like right now, the political landscape got people not really knowing exactly what's going on or what's going to happen. And that level of dysregulation, just being uncertain is, somebody says clear is kind, certain is kind. So if I give you clear instructions or I give you a clear expectation of what's going on, your nervous system can be calm because it's predictable. We know what's going to happen.
That's all I be asking for, Martin. That's all I be wanting. And then folks think I'm being pushy or I'm being demanding. And it's like, no, I know that these are the things that calm me down, right? That keep me regulated. And would you say that there's also something to be said for like, there's a certain amount of regulation that you can control yourself, but you're also a part of an environment. And so the environment can affect your regulation abilities?
Absolutely. It's called emotional contagion. So, and basically someone else's nervous system, dysregulating nervous system can dysregulate yours. Right. And
I was in a
so
relationship for 3 years where someone's dysregulated nervous system was trying to dysregulate mine.
and it goes back and forth. And so if you can't reach a level of baseline, then that's called allostatic load, meaning it's happening over and over again and you never get a chance to reach a baseline. So what happens is in your nervous system, you'll create a new baseline that's much higher and much more sensitized than the one that you had before you start going through those stressful times, the chronic stress. Like 3 years is chronic stress. Yeah.
And now I'm on Lexapro. Because I couldn't regulate. It was 3 years and then Palestine.
And you take on things like wholeheartedly. So when you was having your conversation about other people, when they saying like, I'm just going to sit this one out, that's a regulatory act. And it's like one that your nervous system is like, look, I can't engage. Right. And so you know how to do this. You retreat at times, you know when to go into a retreat, and you've learned that over time. Like you didn't always know that. You just going into the next fight, into the next argument, all that type of stuff. And so you do have to take time to retreat, because that's when you get a chance to rest and repair. Because if you don't have that rest and repair period, you're just constantly putting too much stress on your body and on your nervous system. And that's where people develop all these chronic diseases. It's coming from chronic stress and the inability to regulate.
That question I was asking because I wanted to find out where people were really coming from. Like, are they saying that they're sitting this one out as like an act of defiance, or is it like what you're saying? And I got really good answers and really interesting answers that I'm going to talk about later in the show. But I want to also point out to y'all that Martin is the one who put me onto the book. And I do mention you in my next book, by the way, who put me onto the book, Warrior of Light. The Warrior of Light by Paulo Coelho, who also wrote, of course, The Alchemist. And that has actually been a source of regulation for me, that book, which is why you gave me that book before you even were doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you put me onto that before you even knew that this was your calling.
Right. And it's so much a calling, but that book, if we talk about the book, The Warrior of the Light, it's kind of there's things in there where you like, oh, okay, this is the path, right? And so you'll find more and more things along the way, just like The Alchemist, just that show you
Every
like
time you
this
go
is
back,
the
yeah.
personal legend. Yeah, I at least have to listen to both of them, or read both of them at least once a year, especially when I'm going through difficult times, to just let me know like this is par for the course and this is what the Warrior of the Light is supposed to go through. Just, hold your head and keep it moving and find ways to
Warrior of Light
regulate.
never accepts the unacceptable.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
The Warrior of Light. That's why when people be like, why was you so against Kamala Harris? I was never against Kamala Harris. I was against her supporting the genocide, because the Warrior of Light cannot accept the unacceptable.
There you go.
So you're in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to get a lease at the resort. Was that just because of the pandemic?
Yeah, because at the time that we were there, the resort, it might have been 10 people there, 10, maybe 10 families. Like, it was like 12 buildings and not a lot of people. So for us, that was big for Genesis, because I didn't want him to grow up socialized during this part of his brain development with people with masks on their face all the time. And so during that part of development, if they're not reading facial expressions and not being able to interpret what that is while their brains are developing, I think they're going to be behind on that. And, by the time he was born, I was like all the way into this neuroscience brain development thing. So that was as much a part of it too. So he can be outside like he liked. And then he wasn't fully socialized with masks, only because we was inside their resort. Don't get me wrong. Mexico had masks. They had mask mandate too. However, when we were at the resort, we were pretty good and we had lots of space without being around too many people. So,
now, did you stay there for the duration of the 3 years?
Nah, I wish, because I wish, like, my actual goal in life is to go back and purchase at that resort. It just, we overstayed our financial welcome and we had to go somewhere where it was a little more feasible for us to be. Which also, we just, we got an older son too, there was not a lot of socialization for him. And so a lot of yeah. And it was a vacation resort. So a lot of people would come in vacation. He would meet friends and then they would leave in a week or two. So he had this up and down situation.
Yeah.
So we eventually moved into a neighborhood where he met friends, started going to school down there and everything. And so
oh, wow. Did he pick up Spanish?
Nah, I think it's really far. And then this is also a brain development thing. Like, if you don't learn another language during the formative part of your brain, your capacity to do so drops. It's not that you can't do it. You just can't do it like a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's way too far for him being in there. So he went to a bilingual school. They taught him in English sometimes, but a lot of times it still was difficult for him in the school setting as well, from the language barrier perspective. But he was able to socialize, and that's what he needed at the time. And a lot of the kids during the pandemic suffered from that for a lot of the teenagers. And, once we got back outside, we never went to go make those adjustments for these kids. We just felt like, oh, well, we back outside and now we're good. A lot of people have not addressed what happened during the pandemic, if it was traumatic for them. And so you carry that with you. And and when they say the body keeps the score. And so eventually you'll start having some type of ailments that can point back to a time where you need to go heal at that time, or what needed to be healed at that time.
What was the as a Black person in Mexico, as a Black American person, like what, if any, were unique experiences that you feel like you were having by nature of that?
Man, let me tell you something. Like Mexico had like this revolutionary type situation at the time that I went. When I got there were quite a bit of Black Americans in Mexico. Like we had a community, a Black community. So I mean, we created an actual one. We incorporated it, or whatever you had to do to make it official. But it's called Beta. It's Black Expats Thriving Abroad. And we
Oh
was on the
wow.
board and all kinds of stuff. So Playa del Carmen has a strong Black community down there. And uh, without I would be there. I loved. I got friends. Like I got friends, and people have dispersed at this point. But yeah, like it wasn't a bad experience being Black down there. We had Black people that we could talk to, converse with, become friends with, commune. You know, I was throwing barbecues down there because it was on that resort. I was throwing barbecues like weekly.
How do you feel that? Okay, now that I think that's dope, but I also think there's something to be said for, do you feel like that kept you siloed from the actual culture and the indigenous and like the people who are of Mexico?
Not me. Not who I was dealing with either, with the Black Americans, because you're in Mexico. You're not in America. You know what I mean? So like you don't want to become a colonizer, and you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you don't want to become a colonizer in that, but it's such a tourist place, and it's such a space in that's transient that
Mm.
you can really still work with a lot of the Mexican culture out there. Like I wouldn't be able to have done as much of the neuroscience and sports things and know as much as I know if I didn't partner with, there's a guy down there by the name of Coach Sarda. He's in his 70s and doesn't speak a lick of English. And at the time I didn't speak a lick of Spanish, but you know, we had some translators, we had a good idea, a good thing. And I got the go ahead to pretty much uh, run my program in a court that no Black American had ran anything like that there. And
Wow.
so being able to do that allowed me to get a lot of diversity, because a lot of people were there. Mexico didn't close their borders like a lot of other countries. So a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
retreated to Mexico. So I coached kids from Ukraine. I coached kids from the UK, Africa, Canada. People were from everywhere, and I was able to coach them from all cultures. And I mean, my partners was all Mexican. Like my first camp, I didn't have a Black coach there. And then when we started doing uh, other like more, we expounded on the camps, and we started including a lot of the Black expats and whatnot. But it was very diverse, and it gave me all the confidence that I needed to know that this works without us really even knowing the same language. Like we got brains, and so knowing that kids that don't even really
Wow.
speak your language can regulate, and you can teach them how to regulate without really knowing their language, was a game changer for me. So yeah.
I mean, it sounds though like, I mean, you said this earlier, but by being there, you got to discover other things that you wouldn't have been able to necessarily discover had you stayed in the States. Am I
Without
making?
without a doubt, like just the experience and the exposure of a different culture, different language, different way I have to go into having to go about things, because I mean you're not in America. Again, the you you have to live by the laws of the land, so to speak. And
Mhm,
all the laws of the
mhm.
land aren't written. There's some things that are just
Ooh,
literally, you better know how to read the
pay
room.
attention.
Yes, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
And I'm from those spaces in America where,
I was about to say you you from Houston. You know, like you're not
you
from a
know,
little town. You from where you better know how to read the room or you could die.
and I never, I all the work that I've always done has always been in the inner city. Like even if I don't stay there no more, like I'm always going back. All my programs, I could go do what I do with a suburban group of kids, but I don't. And I always end up right back in those spaces where even if I'm dropping a kid off from practice, I need to pay attention to where we at, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's, and You definitely need to do that out the country. And yeah. And then that's why we put together like the networking thing that we had down there, because you really do still need community if you go somewhere else. Like you can't just be out there by yourself looking like cake. You know what I'm saying? Like these people really don't, everybody isn't well to do. And so when you in these places and just going about your business like a regular American, sometimes that makes people feel how I make it. It's like riding on rims and with your chain in the wrong hood. You know what I mean? Like you just don't do that. Like it's certain things that you just don't do because it's one, it could be disrespectful. Two, it could just really be a way
Drawing
where
attention.
it doesn't make sense to me. But you could do it. And you could draw things to yourself that, I always say you can step in some shit you can't get off your shoe.
You can step in some that you can't get off your shoe. We're going to take some questions from the people. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, because this is a class, I make everybody address our guests with Mr. or Ms. or whatever their preferred pronoun
I
is.
love it.
Hamid said, Mr. Sims. Hamid is one of our greats. Shout out to St. Louis. What has been your experience with encouraging this for Black and brown men? And what has been the response? And I'm sure this is referring to the neuroscience.
Mm-hmm. Well, so when we first got down there, we started doing this with a flag football team, all Black flag football team. We put one together. And I just feel like sports is one of those things where it can transcend belief systems and things of that nature. Like people, people who might be on two sides of a topic, both love the Eagles, they will hug each other when the Eagles win the Super Bowl. They'll put their differences aside and they can have this common ground. And so I do that through sports. We did that with the Black expat group football team. And that's where we started to develop relationships. So like there's this engagement sequence. So the engagement sequence is regulate, relate, reason, right? And you must regulate first, and then you have to find some type of relatable, either topic, relatable, something relatable, before you could really get to the reasoning part of the brain, because humans have always been humans' greatest predator. So we look at people sideways and we don't really, we got to trust you first. And so if we dysregulate it, we automatically don't trust you because we in survival mode, basically. And so if you could regulate and then relate to a person, then you could get to the reasoning faculties of their brain because you open it up. And so, yeah, like we did that with sports, and then just having a community of Black men that just wanted to do things. Like they still doing Taco Tuesday, Taco Thursday. We meet up every week, a group of Black men, and they are doing it. And I got some guys down there that really own it. Like I didn't even want to leave, but yeah, they know about this. I've done, as a matter of fact, before I started going public with it, I did the first time I started doing DOPE as the acronym, I did it for them. I wanted to know if I know all this neuroscience and I taught it to somebody who knew nothing, would it land? And it did. And so after that, I've been out here with it.
Out here with it.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Kashan, another one of our AmandaLander great ones, is a personal question. What was and or is your family of origins response to your relocation to Mexico?
They thought I was crazy. I am in a way, but I think my wife is crazier than me. So I just obliged to what she was going on. And plus, you gotta cater to her. She just had my baby during the pandemic. She had it at the house. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot going on with that. So she needs some peace. And I just ran a whole basketball team, and she ain't even really put up a fight. You know what I'm saying? She was bringing the baby to the games and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, we could go. But my family, yeah, they thought I was crazy, but in the beginning, but they visited me down there. They loved their experience. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so my nephews was down there. I had quite a few friends that visited me down there. So like just being able to be a guy.
I tried to visit you down there, but our time we missed each other.
The same weekend that I was moving back. I was like, she was like, I'm gonna be down there. And I'm like, we packing everything up right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna try to catch you, but
right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad though that they got on board. They eventually got on board. All right, next question. Mr. Sims, thank you for sharing today. Was it difficult to obtain a visa to stay for 3 years?
So the visa process is, so you got a 6-month tourist visa, regardless. A lot of people that go down there for that time, they do what, depending on if Mexico, depending on where they are with this. Sometimes they, during some parts of the pandemic, they got real strict on this and they stopped giving like 6-month visas because people were just abusing them and just living there. So their whole immigration situation was becoming a problem, especially in the tourist areas. So you could do the 6-month visa. Then a temporary visa requires a certain amount of money in your account for 12 months. 11 months won't work. I promise you, like, it's not going to work. So you have to show documentation of having a certain amount of either income or an account that never went below a certain amount. So that has, I think they've upped that, but it's somewhere around, like, I can't tell you the number because I don't really know no more. And so they'll give you a temporary visa for 1 year if you reach a certain criteria. If you reach another criteria, you could just get permanent residency. Like if you just have a certain amount of money. I ain't saying we wasn't there. Yeah, I wasn't doing neuroscience at that point. We was trying to make it happen. But yeah, so like the visa process, you can get a temporary one for 1 year. You can renew that for 3 years. And after that renewal, you'll get a permanent residency. So that would be like the temporary, trying to see if you want to do that or not. Or you can have the other criteria that allow for you to go in and straight get a permanent residency for life, as long as you don't lose it. And you don't want to lose any of those things because you need a translator or somebody that knows that process, because yeah, it's better to pay somebody to just help you through that process. I knew one or two people that could do it themselves, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend just finding somebody that knows what they're
That's their
doing,
thing.
understands the process. Yeah, because you don't want to end up in Mexican jail and they will deport you too. It'll happen. You could be deported.
It'll happen.
I've seen
All
it.
right, last question. Mr. Sims, how have both your children adjusted with living in Mexico for 3 years? Well, because it was 3 years.
Yeah, my son, that's all he knows. Like, so when he knows the difference between Atlanta and Mexico distinctively. So the 3-year-old, well, he's 4 now, so he knows. He's like, in Mexico we did this, and here, he knows those things distinctly. So he had to adjust moving back to Atlanta. My oldest son, his was probably more difficult and one we had to navigate a little bit better, because his lockdown happened right at the end of his 8th grade year, and he never really experienced high school in America. So a lot of his friends were doing things that he didn't get a chance to do. He was in Mexico. He met some friends in Mexico. I think he got some lifelong friends from Mexico.
Cool.
But he needed more. It's just kind of difficult. And I think a lot of times, like, the people with kids probably move back quicker than people who were just couples or something like that, because it's just not as many Black kids there, and you're going to have to assimilate yourself into their culture. And it's not always accommodating, nor can it be, because they just don't know enough. And so you can, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's just not.
It's foreign.
Yeah.
And the thing about humans is anything that we don't understand, most often we other and make it into something either dangerous or less than.
And that's a neuroscience thing. Yeah, it is.
Well, this was fabulous. We thought we was going to Mexico and we went to the frontal cortex, y'all. All right, we was all up in the cerebellum. We was in the business of the brain. Where can people learn more about the work that you do, and get into the neuroscience of it all?
So you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok, or all at the dopest coach, is THEDOPEST coach, COACH. You can follow me at all of those. I promise you, I'm gonna start making content on this. I just been showing up with my face and doing what I'm doing here with Amanda, or doing speaking engagements, which have been going great, by the way.
Yay!
And so that's what I've been doing. But I'll create more
Well,
content.
because you have the coach skills,
yeah.
but then you're applying it in this space. That's
Mhm.
necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of this is from the fact that I coached in AAU and I saw so much toxicity, like from
Mm.
coaches who meant well, right? Like, so like you could have, they get a lot of flack, like AAU is such a toxic environment. And then I'm like, but they don't have any training. Like nobody, and they're here, right? Like, so we always talk about deadbeat dads and all kinds of stuff like that. But these coaches literally are at these practices, at these games. They're taking kids
Committed.
but they could be committed and still dangerous to kids because they don't have any training. They don't have any knowledge of that. They just got intention, and we know the difference between intention and impact, right? And so I was also the same, right? I also was the same. Like I don't feel like I was toxic, but I did have some toxic things before I talked to my therapist and I talked to, and you know what I'm saying? I got into talking to Dr. Perry. And once I started realizing, this can be easier. You know what I mean? Like this can, it don't
This
have to
life
be
thing?
so difficult. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
just being able to regulate or recognize that someone needs to regulate and know I don't need to engage them right now. Or just having I'm saying, so knowing same. So knowing that you can help people regulate and then you could become a regulating force as well. And so I think that's just one of those things where, because the power differential, and that means the person that, like right now, Amanda, on your show, you have the power differential. So your nervous system is going to be more influential to everybody on this thing than everybody else's. So you must stay regulated as much as you can so other people don't get dysregulated, right? Like this, it's the responsibility of the leader.
It's a give and take.
I understand. I'm the
It's a
same.
give and
Like,
take.
and I'm passionate too.
Sometimes they be in here trying to dysregulate me,
Mhm.
and
So
and then they achieve it sometimes.
a dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. A dysregulated person cannot
So I
regulate a
remember
dysregulated person.
a dysregulated person cannot regulate. Well, that to me is when it's like, okay, I need to take a breath. Like sometimes I'll be like, I need to take a breath and step away,
Mhm.
and I'm coming back.
Mhm.
And that's the thing I used to tell my ex, like, it's fine if you need to step away, but you need to come back. If you just exit and then when you come back, you act like ain't nothing happened, we have not achieved anything.
So that was me too. I did that too. And I didn't recognize that, I couldn't make that loop. You know what I mean? Because dysregulation actually is one of the most uncomfortable things. And so what people do is they find ways to regulate themselves, they check out, disassociate, or
They go to the gym.
or they self-medicate, right?
Mhm.
And so like the gym could be a self-medication, but the gym is good. It's a very regulating thing, but you still also need skills and tools, emotional skills and tools after you leave the gym. So the gym is not the end all be all.
It gets you back to baseline.
It gets you back to baseline, but then you need those skills to be able to engage again, right? Even if, and it takes time. I mean, it really does. But it takes understanding and knowledge. And so we didn't get that in school. You feel me? So that's what I'm saying. Like that. That's what I'm saying. So Amanda, can you regulate us? Mount up? We gotta understand it, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like that is the comment. I promise you. Like I am so on that song. That's it. It is my
Mound up.
That's what I really want to be, like the intro to my podcast. Speaking of podcasts, I'm doing the podcast. Can you be a guest on my podcast? Of course, right? Okay, cool. So the podcast is called Your Brain on Dope. Yeah. And then we can have this conversation.
Well, my podcast called Small Doses, so we in the same realm.
So when I was talking to you about that, I never went. So we could talk about that on the podcast. I promise you, because that is a neuroscience concept that you don't even know, and it is absolutely a concept. Absolutely, it's called dosing and spacing.
All right, we got a lot to talk about, y'all.
You got to get back to your. You got to get back to your show.
Give it. I know, because we'll sit here and do a whole small doses episode. And I'm like, no, you got to
Facts.
come on small doses and do a small doses episode.
Facts.
But shout out to Martin Sims, y'all, for joining us for another edition of Black Around the World. And we went to all sorts of spaces and places, and we still made it back to Mexico. And this is really valid information. The goal of this segment, though, is to, at the end of the day, just encourage folks to understand that there's other places. The world is yours, and there's this very effort. There's an effort by the United. I'm mad it's a Hennessy bottle. That's when Nas was doing his Hennessy run.
That's exactly what it was. It was the 50th anniversary. I never got rid of the bottle. I haven't drank Hennessy since that. And that was my last year's birthday, but I kept the bottle. So the world is yours. There you go.
The world is yours. I think, though, there's a really concerted effort to scare Americans into staying in America, and particularly Americans who are of Black and brown descent. And then they end up keeping us here and then utilizing us as a part of the prison industrial crisis, as a part of a labor force that they're not going to support, et cetera, et cetera. So, I just always want to encourage people, even though when I've told people about getting passports, they said I was an elitist petty bourgeoisie. I was not. I was saying that because there's a whole world here that they don't want you to be a part of, even though they want to take parts of you and sell it to the world.
Tell them get out the inner city limits. That's it.
There you got it. There you go. Thank you so much, brother. We will be in touch. And tell Phoenix I said hi.
I will do that. Appreciate you for having me.
No doubt. Y'all, that's another edition of Black Around the World.
AmandaLand.
Black around the world, black around the world. Black around the world, black around the world, black around the world. So we international. Passport. Hey. That was so great. Right? That was so fabulous. That is so fabulous. Man. These days, we got to find other ways, man. We got to find other ways. So shout out to Martin. And I do feel like these plane crashes are part of the effort of trying to keep people. I just think that people don't understand that the people in power are ruthless, and they will look at like human bodies and human souls as just, pieces of their process. And I think sometimes people don't understand that, like, these people will absolutely willingly put you in harm's way if it means, getting their goal across the finish line. They will absolutely do that. So, but shout out to Martin, and just such a great, what a great time. What a great time. So we're gonna get into the next segment. There's so much going on these days. There's so much craziness happening. Well, first, actually, before we get into any of that, hey, before we do that, show your love, drop a super, your love, or hit me in the Cash App, show your love, I said, hit me in the Cash App, baby. Drop me with a super, baby. Show your love. Show your love. Because I'm giving you news. I'm giving you neuroscience. Giving you geography. And giving you facts. All of that for free. For free. For free. Yeah. Show your love. 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 Come on, mama, show your love. Show your love. Show your love, girl. Show your love, girl. I want you to show your love, girl. We went down to Florida real quick. Yeah, we went down to Florida real quick. Show your love, girl. Show your love, girl. Show your love, girl. Oh, man. Let's get into this next segment. Y'all, We got a lot happening in the world right now, in the nation right now. And it is time for us to really understand who the players are. Okay? We need to know who the players are. And it concerns me deeply that so many of us don't know who the players are. It concerns me deeply that so many of us are kind of just not, we don't have that information. And that when I was really trying to find my way into understanding the politics of this nation, one of the best ways to do that was to learn, like, who does what does each job do, and why do they do it? And we need to know that on a whole other level at this point. So here we go.
AmandaLand.
Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. So you should name them. Name them.
AmandaLand.
Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. So you should name them. Name them. Good afternoon, children. I am Leroy the Leftist, and I am here to teach y'all about what a fascist is. Now, I know that there's been a lot of talk going on that a lot of people don't understand. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to come on here and I'm going to help the children and I'm going to help the people understand so that we can understand what we need to be understanding. That fascists are not your friend. Fascists are not your friend. And so a leftist Leroy is here to talk about how we can move beyond this and how we can make sure that we can point out and name the fascists that are acting as if they're your friend when in actuality, they are not your friend. Are you following me, children? All right, let's get into this. Now, let me put on my gloves since we about to handle something real right now. All right, we about to handle something real right now. Okay. Now, when we talk about fascism, first we need to acknowledge what is fascism. Fascism is a far right. This is the actual definition, so don't think I'm just making this up. Fascism is a far-right, authoritarian, and ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race, and strong regimentation of society and the economy. In opposition to anarchism, democracy, pluralism, egalitarianism, liberalism, socialism, and Marxism, fascism is at the farthest of the rightist of the traditional left-right spectrum. Children, do you understand? Do you follow what I'm saying? Are we on the same page of what I'm saying? Good, because we got a lot more pages to be turning. When we say fascists are not your friend, we need to point out the individuals that are currently in a power position in office that are actively performing as fascists so that we can identify and name them so that we can shift them. Let's begin. First, let's start. This lady right here is a fascist. Her name is Carolyn Leavitt. Now, she is the White House press secretary. This role is a senior position whose official primary responsibility is to act as spokesperson for the executive branch, especially with regard to the president, senior aides, and executives, as well as government policies. Let's take a listen to this individual right here and how she has shown up. Let's take a listen. Well, first off, I need to make sure I had a video of this individual. So we gonna make sure that we get that going on. Because for some reason, I don't have any of this where it's supposed to be. So we gonna get it right now. Now, this lipless lovely is one of the most confident dummies I have ever witnessed. She can barely write a comprehensible tweet and is also loudly and famously racist. Let's listen to something that she recently said while she was in her position as White House press secretary. And you tell me if you think she represents being a fascist.
When you are flying on an airplane with your loved ones, which every one of us in this room has, do you pray that your plane lands safely and gets you to your destination, or do you pray that the pilot has a certain skin color? I think we all know the answer to that question, and as President Trump said yesterday, it's common sense.
Now, I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like someone who's fascist to me. Can anybody tell me where they see the fascism in that statement so that we can point out these individuals? Children, I will wait. Now tell me, remember, the definition of a fascist includes characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race, and strong regimentation of society and the company. Can anybody tell me what this woman is doing that shows that she is fascist? I'll wait. Yo-hoy, yo-ahoy, conflating safety with color. That is correct. That is an example of how they are pushing fascist rhetoric by conflating safety with color. Maeve says hiding motives. That is correct. Adrena says suppression. That is correct. We also have Adrian who says she believes in a natural hierarchy, that it doesn't matter if the pilot is black, thus we don't need DEI, even though this is a nation that has actively done DEI in the reverse. Okay? Also, we can also put in here, now this is a real good one, Laurel Hendrickson coming through, assumes everyone prays. That leads right into the fascist mindset of unnaturalist political ideology and movement. Belief in a natural social hierarchy has also been mentioned, as well as a dictatorial leader and forcible suppression of opposition. So this was a great example. And yes, this is a lady who absolutely is a fascist. And we always have to remember that fascists are not our friends. Fascists are not our friends. Let's go to the next person. Are y'all still with me, class? Please let me know if y'all are still with me, class, before we go to the next person. The next person is the border czar. All right? This is the border czar. His name is Tom Homan. Tom Homan is the border czar. Now, let me tell you something. According to Trump, as border czar, this man is in charge of the southern border, the northern border, all maritime and aviation security, as well as all deportation of illegal aliens back to their country of origin. Nowadays, the term czar, spelled C-Z-A-R, is used by the headline writers as well as by the White House to describe an official that a president designates to coordinate the government's response to a specific issue, usually one that is time sensitive. Now, this bumbling fool, who can barely get a sentence out of his mouth because it is so tied up with his fascist rhetoric, has said many things that let you know that he is a fascist. Aside from telling NYC's Mayor Adams, who is a coon, on national television that if the NYPD didn't assist ICE, that this man right here said, and I quote, will put his foot up his butt. He has also said that he's going to come for the people of Boston. Now, let's take a listen to what he had to say about the people of Boston.
I read a story last night, the police commissioner of Boston. You said you doubled down on not helping the law enforcement officers of ICE. I'm coming to Boston, I'm bringing hell with me.
Fascists are not your friend. Now tell me, what about this man makes him a fascist? Put it in the comments. Now, this is an individual who has let you know very clearly that he is going to do whatever he want to do regardless of the law. This is an individual who is extending his power beyond the merits of his control. This is somebody who is going to Boston. And let me just tell you, Boston ain't no joke. Boston got mafia. And I want to know if when he goes to Boston, are the Irish, the Italian, the Russian, and the Haitian mafias gonna meet him with anything less than the energy he's coming with? Because I can tell you that they ain't there for play. Now, what is playing is my damn goatee. My goatee is absolutely playing. But we gonna keep on going because I don't play. Now, we have to make sure that we are always paying attention to the fascists that are among us, because the fascists that are among us are always paying attention to us. Do you agree, class? It is important for you to agree because I am right. Let's take it to the next fascist, because remember, fascists are not your friend. Fascists are not your friend. Angela said he believes he is above the law. That is right. That makes him a fascist. Okay? Goddess says, is there a way to stop ads during the show? It's not super savvy. No, but that is how I get paid. Because I am not a fascist and I won't steal the money. I got to make the money somehow to support myself. Italians don't play around. Can anybody else say why this man is a fascist? Nia said, undermining local elected officials. That is correct. That makes him a fascist. Cynthia said being on a CPAC conference is fascist. That is absolutely correct. And Eric said, unrelated, Boston is racist AF. That is absolutely correct. Rena B adds, repression and use of harmful ideology. Y'all are paying attention. Y'all are paying attention. Fascists are not your friend. Fascists are not your friend. And you need to always remember that as we continue to go on to the next person who is a fascist. And that is the Secretary of Defense. Now, this is a role that normally is supposed to be reserved for people at the highest level of military experience. The Secretary of Defense is the person who is basically in charge of advising and implementing the president's goals in the area of defense. The last several secretaries of defense have been ranking military who were also CEOs of defense weapons companies. This individual right here is Peter Hegseth. He goes by the name of Pete. He was not in the same position as those who came before him. In fact, he was a host on Fox News. He was in the National Guard. Now, he has zero experience, and when asked in his hearing if the president said he wanted you to shoot protesters, would you do it? And you know what he said? Do you know what he said? He said no. That makes him a what? A fascist. Now, some of y'all might also be wondering, is Amanda going to play a video of this individual? And my answer is no. You know why? Because I played a video of this individual yesterday. I have seen enough of him talking his nonsense for 1 week. So no, I'm not going to play a video of this individual. However, what I will do is I will show you that this individual was actually taken out of the National Guard because he has tattoos. Now, you might be like, Miss Seals. You might be like, Larry. I forgot that I'm Larry. You might be like, but Larry, why would tattoos make him have to go out of the military? Well, that is a very easy question from me, Larry, the leftist. The answer is because his tattoos are representative of organizations that are dangerous and have been deemed problematic to the American experiment. Yes, he is a member of organizations that are Christian nationalists. And so he was actually removed from the National Guard because he was reported as a possible insider threat due to his nationalist tattoos. Now, Leroy don't have no tattoos like that. Leroy would believe that anybody with tattoos like that is going to be a problem. Now, let me tell you something. That is a very serious example of a fascist. He already had them on the body, and now he's in the body of the government. Can anybody tell me what makes this individual a fascist besides these elements? Would anybody like to add that? That is correct, Crown Prince. Larry is my middle name. And sometimes I interchange between Leroy and Larry, depending on what mode I'm feeling like. It's like Tyrese and Black Tie. Depending on what mode he's feeling like is going to determine whether or not he's going by Tyrese or Black Tie. Now, somebody said the jacket. The inside of his jacket is what makes him a fascist. And I'm going to say that is not incorrect. That is not incorrect. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else got an example of why this person, as the Secretary of State, as the Secretary of Defense, has demonstrated that he is a fascist? You know what? I'm not even going to wait for y'all. I'm not even going to wait for y'all. I'm going to tell y'all the answer. Once he said that once he didn't say no when he was asked would he harm protesters if he was told to, that lets you know that he is a fascist, because ultimately he is going along with the far-right authoritarian ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, subordination of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or a threat. This is an individual who is absolutely worth nothing as beyond his loyalty to Donald Trump. Now, last but not least, when we are talking about fascists, we have to remember that they don't always have to come in one color, okay? Fascists can come in many colors, and they don't have to be at the job of the president. They can come in other jobs. So it is important for us to note that this fascist coming up next is not in the cabinet. However, he has been put in position because he is a supporter of the president. And that person is Kash Patel. Not to be confused with Cash Me Outside. Now, Leroy the leftist look at somebody like this and says, this is an individual who we should watch out for. He got crazy eyes. When somebody got crazy eyes, you should make sure that you are paying attention to him. You should make sure that you are watching your 12 and your 6, your 3 and your 9. this individual, Kash Patel, is the director of the FBI. I'm not going to bother explaining what the director of the FBI is because y'all already know it is the FBI director. That is self-explanatory. Now, this person is a self-hating Indian man. I don't know why he has golfers on his tie for this photo. It don't make no sense. But much of what he says don't make no sense. Let's take a listen to what this individual has to say.
Anyone that wishes to do harm to our way of life and our citizens here or abroad will face the full wrath of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And if you seek to hide in any corner of this country or any corner of this planet, we will put on the world's largest manhunt and we will find you and we will decide your end state, not you. We will uphold the Constitution. We will uphold ourselves to the Constitution. The men and women at the FBI, I have your back because you have the backs of the American people.
That is concerning. That is concerning because the way that he is talking is not actually about what y'all is thinking. If you think, well, that sounds like somebody that's going to protect us. No, that is somebody that is only going to protect the president's idea of what is worthy of being protected. Now, if you cannot make those ideas together with yourself, then you have not been paying attention to teacher Ms. Amanda Seals. And me, Leroy the leftist, want you to be paying attention. This individual right here has an Arya Stark list of folks that he feels need to get taken down. And I don't know why the entire cabinet of this administration is made up of people that clearly got bullied and are coming back. Instead of it's the revenge of the nerds, this is the revenge of the losers. That's what it is. They are psychopaths, they are sycophants, and they got crazy eyes. Now, I said that was the last one, but you know what? I'm going to give y'all a bonus. I'm going to give y'all a bonus because I want to make sure that when Larry the leftist leaves here, that y'all done learned a thing or two. And so I want us to talk about the job of the Attorney General. The job of the Attorney General. We'll come back to that. The job of the Attorney General goes to Pamela Bondi. Let's listen to what Pamela Bondi got to say. Actually, you know what? I don't got Pamela Bondi today. You know what I do got, though, is I got this fool right here. Now, this person has been named as the FBI something or other. And what we don't really know is why. Because this individual is a podcast host. This individual is somebody that literally was a Secret Service agent and is now a podcast host. But he has made it his business to be continuously committed to the Trump movement for this purpose. And I'm glad that he got his due. Now, you know that this is a man with a white mama. I put money on it. Donald Trump said, great news for law enforcement and American justice. Dan Bongino, a man of incredible love and passion for our country, has just been named the next deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best ever director of the FBI, Kash Patel. Dan has I want you to listen to this description. Dan has a master's degree in psychology from the City University of New York and an MBA from Penn State. He was a member of the NYPD, New York's finest, a highly respected special agent with the United States Secret Service, and is now one of the most successful podcasters in the country, something he is willing and prepared to give up in order to serve. Working with our great new United States Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director Patel, fairness, justice, law, and order will be brought back to America. Let leftist Leroy be the first to tell you, if not the last. Fascists are not your friends. And all of these individuals are fascists. And you need to know their names. And you need to pay attention to what they're doing if you want to make sure that you do everything you can to stop it. Remember, kids, fascists are not your friends. Till next time, stay powerful, stay grounded, stay knowledgeable, and stay to the left.
AmandaLand.
Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. Fascists are not your friends. So you should name them. Name them. I had so much fun doing that intro. Fascists are not your friend. Fascists are not your friend. Fascists are not your friends. You should name them. Name them. Mm-hmm. Leftist Leroy. Oh, I forgot my chain. Thank you for reminding me, Sonia. I forgot my chain. I might just keep the chain on for the rest of the show. I'm going to just keep the chain on for the rest of the show. Oh, man. Man. You know what? Let's talk about how Black I feel today. How Black do you feel today? So I think when we talk about people like Leftist Leroy and revolution and revolutionaries, it can feel like a very big word, the concept. But I want to just ground it for some folks because I think it may feel way outside of your realm of existence, but it really, being a revolutionary is a state of mind that is necessary for these times. And how Black I feel today is how Angela Davis speaks about what it means right here.
What do you see as the meaning of the term revolutionary?
Well, there's no single simple meaning of the term revolutionary. A revolutionary is a man or a woman who is a lot of things, but basically the revolutionary wants to change the nature of society in a way to promote a world where the needs and interests of the people are responded to. A revolutionary realizes, however, that in order to create a world where human beings can live and love and be healthy and create, you have to completely revolutionize the entire fabric of society. You have to overturn the economic structure where you have a few individuals who are in possession of the vast majority of the wealth in this country that's been produced by the majority of the people, and you have to destroy this political apparatus which, under the guise of revolutionary government, perpetrates the most incredible misery on the masses of people.
There you have it. I really feel like there's this idea that being revolutionary, or as Angela Davis defines it, or being leftist is somehow being, some radical, crazy person for some people. And that was in 1972. That was when she was in jail in 1972. And here we are in 2025, and nothing she's saying is different. At the core of her revolutionary philosophy, this is from Psychedelic Archives, is the conviction that true freedom requires more than reform. And that ends up being the difference really between reformists and revolutionaries. So when you see me talking about, the Democrats don't do enough, when you see me talking about there needs to be an entire dismantling of the system, it's because reform suggests that the system that's in place can be fixed. And I simply do not believe that. I do not believe that the system that is in place can be fixed. because it was never meant to work properly for the people. It would be like trying to make a motorcycle into a bus. The motorcycle was built, made, and designed for one person, a specific type of person. You can't just transform that into a bus. So when we look at the concept of revolution, I want us to always remember that anytime you are going against a status quo, there will always be efforts to say that what you're saying is impossible. You know, there'll always be efforts to suggest that you can't do. And we live in a time where that may be even coming from bots. You don't even know if that's coming from a real person. Okay? Like, that's coming from in general. So I want to get into my PSA, and I want to address something before we get out of here, if you don't mind. Nope. If you don't mind.
AmandaLand.
PSA. So today's public seals announcement is in response to the question that I asked on my YouTube shorts that got some really odd responses. The question that I asked, and I tried to download the video, but of course, you know, the internet's be really just giving me a hard time. And so I'm just going to play the video for you right here because that's just easier to do. I think when you listen, again, listen to what I'm saying, and I will explain further the reason why I asked these questions. This is an honest question, like legitimately an honest question. For all the Black people saying we should sit this one out, I would like for you to tell me what this one is to you, what that means. I'd also like for you to tell me how you like what does sitting out look like? And then also, what were you doing when you was standing in? So if we're sitting this one out, what were you doing when you were standing in that you are no longer going to be doing during the fascist takeover of the United States? So I asked this question, and of course, there ended up being some people who were like, oh, you're being disrespectful, you're being hypocritical, nobody needs to explain themselves to you, etc. That is you projecting onto me. I am asking a very valid series of questions, because what I think has been going on is there's been a lot of assuming and conjecture. So there's been a lot of statements of people saying, I'm sitting this one out. The 92% are sipping our tea. I'm sitting this one out. And at the end of the day, everyone interprets things based on their own understanding of things. For instance, one time I had an ex and we were talking, and he was saying how he was like, you know, they got my friend out of there. My friend was locked up and they got him out of there. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like, he just kept being like aggravated. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, why are you so aggravated? Like, what's the problem? He's like, I just told you they got my friend out of there. And I'm like, yeah, wouldn't you be happy that they got your boy out of prison? And he's like, no, I mean that they took him out. They took his life. That phrase, get them out of there, meant a completely different thing in his vernacular than in my vernacular. So context ends up being a huge barrier. Perspective ends up being a huge barrier for communication. We already have trash communication in this nation or in this world because of text, etc. So there is already a necessity for clarification that honestly not enough of us, myself included, really commit ourselves to, which is why I say curiosity is compassion. Because the willingness to be curious is a demonstration of your compassion for understanding and willingness to understand. So at the end of the day, when people started saying, when people keep saying, I'm saying this or not, I'm saying that, eventually I was like, you know what? I need to understand what this means. This is coming from people that are my own people. Like, I can't keep just guessing what it means based on my own perspective. Let me extend myself to learning their perspective. So people started responding and giving insights. And again, I'm ignoring the people who want to add their own color of negativity simply for just a question being asked. Because there are people who have decided that I have no right to ask questions. There are people who have decided I have no right to ask questions of the Black community. There are people who have decided I have no right to ask questions of Black women. Again, all of those things are irrelevant to me because they're based in nonsense. They're based in their own silliness and their own misinterpretation willfully of things that I've said or done in the past. So irrelevant. What I want to address, though, is that when people started explaining what their version of sitting out was, it was not different than what we were already doing sitting in. So again, language and communication ends up being the divide and the conquer because we're not even listening to each other. I saw so many people who were stating that when they mean sit out, they mean focus on their community, that they mean continue to organize, that they mean know about civic engagement. Baby, none of that is sitting out. I'm not going to cry over the people who voted for Trump F-arounding and finding out. Who was suggesting that you do that? Who was suggesting that you do that? When you're saying that you're sitting out, all you're doing when you describe it in that way is saying that you are going to continue to be doing what Black women have continued to do in liberation movements since forever. So when you say you're sitting out, it doesn't even make sense because you're really just continuing to sit in with what has always been the case. I don't know of any history of Black women saying that we're going to stand up we're going to put our bodies on the... No, we're not that silly. We know what we're about. And the truth is that Black women protect Black women. And by nature of us protecting ourselves and our communities, it ends up being protective of everyone else. When they're saying, like, I'm not going to go out there in the front lines, I don't blame you. You're damn right. I don't think you should put your body on the line. So we agree. We actually agree. But it looks like we don't agree because we're simply not saying the same thing in the exact same way. Now, my confusion was grounded in the fact that there was a lot of this attached to this idea that voting for Kamala was some type of revolutionary act. Like that was what was being really kind of presented to me in this, in the presentation of the idea of the 92%. Like, look, we did this thing. And when I was looking at that, I was seeing it as, okay, so they're stating that just voting for Kamala was the revolutionary act and they're not going to do anything after that. So my thing is like, okay, well, voting in this climate is not like some revolutionary act. It's not like you were in Selma voting at the threat of death. So if that's the lowest bar of basicness, and then you're saying you're going to do less than that, then I was like, what does that even mean? So I took sitting out, meaning you not doing nothing for nobody, not even us. That's what I took that to mean. And when we talk about advocacy, the truth of the matter is that when you state that you want things for your community that are important for your community, well, most of us don't live in solely Black women communities. So if you're going to advocate for that for your community, then there's other people in your community that will benefit from that. And so it just makes sense to coalition build with those people. So that's the only thing that I would say is different from my version of, doing the work than what these people are saying. When there are people who are saying we're sitting out, meaning that we're not going to involve ourselves in working with other communities, culturally and ethnic, I don't think that that is actually practical. And I think that is definitely going along with the effort of divide and conquer. 100%. But I wanted to address this because so often we find ourselves arguing even when we agree. And it was a bit of a relief, honestly, to see that when I asked these questions, the people who genuinely answered them, in more cases than not, were listing things that people have been committed to doing. And so their version of sitting this one out was actually demonstrating them leaning in even further than they may ever have before. So if sitting this one out means being a part of your community organizations and focusing on your community strengthening, if sitting this one out means reading more and understanding the history and the present to have a better future, if instead of standing outside with picket signs to defend folks that wouldn't defend you, baby, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I think there's a misinterpretation in what I say. If you think that I'm telling you that you should be going to stand on picket lines with farmers who voted for Trump, then you have misinterpreted my point. What I'm saying is all them people who are over there for F-arounding and finding out, you can simultaneously be like, wow, you finding out, ain't you? You know what? You should come and support us. That's it. That's it. But the shaming is not you sitting this one out. The shaming is you actually engaging in the same toxicity that continues to keep this country backwards. That's actually not sitting this one out. And every time that you say things like I saw someone say, see, I hope you Palestinians that held your vote from Kamala and now find yourself in the situation with Trump, I hope you get gas chambered. I saw a Black woman say that. And that is devil work. Sitting this one out is very dangerous if it looks like doing nothing, pretending what's going on isn't happening, and going into self and disassociating. That is what I'm talking about when I am saying sitting this one out. When I see Black women say, I'm just going to sit back and sip my tea, that language is indicative of someone saying, I'm not going to do anything. Sitting back and sip my tea, I interpret to mean I'm not doing anything. And the truth of the matter is we have to do because we are always going to feel it the worst. So I'm really glad I asked that question. I'm really appreciative of those who gave me real answers. And I want all of us to understand that even if you decide to silo, there's always a chance. There's always a chance for there to be a bridge built. And there's going to be bridges built because there's folks that are, in different parts of the revolutionary process and different parts of the enlightenment process. And you're welcome across that bridge. And we're going to need more folks coming across those bridges than ever. So when I ask, what does sitting out mean? When I ask, what does standing in mean? And when I ask, what are you doing differently now that you weren't doing before? I was asking that from a genuine place of curiosity, and I got answers that brought me great joy and let me know that the liberation movement is continuing, and that even if the revolution is not being properly contextualized on Wi-Fi, it is continuing to happen nonetheless. PSA. All right, that's the end of today's show, man. Thank y'all so much for joining me, and thanks for everybody who dropped supers. Shout out to my homeboy Martin Sims for joining us. I mean, he just really was fabulous, and we went to Mexico and beyond. So if you're just joining us and you did not check out the Black Around the World segment, then baby, you need to do so because it is fabulous. It is fabulous. I'm showing all the supers. You guys were not playing around with the supers, okay? Y'all showed so much love in the supers today, and I thank you so much because the girl is out here working. All right? These are tough times. These are real times. This is a great community that we're building here at Views from AmandaLand. Please remember to tell a friend about what we're doing. Please remember to support by leaving a comment on videos. Even if it was yesterday's video, please leave a comment to continue to push the video and to play, and please, of course, replay the video. Remember, we can always show your love by supporting and subscribing to my Patreon and becoming a member of the SEAL Squad. We are over there having a grand old time doing grand old things. Y'all, remember, we are each other's business. When we look out for each other, we lift each other up. It is time to end the show and take a deep breath with our 30 seconds of stillness.
30 seconds of stillness.
Y'all know I be struggling with the 30 seconds of stillness. I be trying to get there really quickly and clicking through things, and then it don't happen, and then I feel bad because we ain't there yet, but I'm gonna get there right about now. I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the SEAL Squad. Views from AmandaLand. Live 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday, with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV.